So the deadline is upon us. The Europeans, the unfriendly nations, have to cough up rubles, right? Putin, Russia, have demanded that all gas payments, right? So all payments for gas must be done not in euros, not in US dollars, but in rubles, in the Russian currency. Because again, the ruble had lost a lot of its value because of the sanctions. Actually, one way to prop it up was, again, to increase the demand for rubles, right? And this is one of them. It appears to be working. Let me show you where the ruble is at. So before the war, it was at around 77 to the dollar. And now it's 81. So you could say it's recovered to pre-war levels, right? More or less. Putin made that announcement about gas payments in rubles a week ago, and he told Gazprom, the Russian state-owned company, and the central bank, you got 1 week to hash this out, to hash out a plan. And now there was some talk. The Europeans are just not going to pay for it. The G7 said no, because we're not paying for this, and the EU said no, we're not going to pay for these gas contracts in rubles because the contracts say euros. They don't say rubles, and you're violating the contract. Which again, just as a side note, it sounds kind of weird, right? Because they're sending weapons to kill Russians, and they're like, you got to respect the contract. Well, you sanctioned Russia, so I mean, respecting contracts kind of went out the window already. But nevertheless, I'm telling you both sides. So the Europeans claim that this is a breach of contract. Now, it appeared for a second that Putin and Scholz, the German chancellor, had reached some sort of compromise. And this is from Reuters, March 30th. They said that Germany says to still pay for Russian gas in euros and dollars after call between Scholz and Putin. So a government spokesperson said that Germany will continue to pay for Russian gas in euros or dollars and that nothing has changed. In a phone call between the leaders, Putin told the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz that nothing would change for European partners and payments would be made in euros and transferred to Gazprom Bank, which would convert the money into rubles, the German spokesperson said. So this is a new plan now, okay? Basically, the goal here is to still increase the demand for rubles because they will have to be converted and therefore buying more rubles. And the idea is also to keep Gazprom Bank free of sanctions. I mean, at the same time, they had not sanctioned the energy sector anyway. But they basically tried some kind of solution so the Europeans can save face. Now, anyway, I'm going to play this clip for you here from Putin just yesterday. And let's take a look at what he had to say.
Сегодня мною подписан указ, который устанавливает правила торговли российским природным газом с так называемыми недружественными государствами. Мы предлагаем контрагентам из таких стран понятную и прозрачную схему. Чтобы приобрести российский природный газ, они должны открыть рублевые счета в российских банках. Именно с этих счетов будет вестись оплата газа, поставленного начиная с завтрашнего дня, с 1 апреля текущего года. Если же такие платежи не будут производиться, будем считать это неисполнением обязательств со стороны покупателей, со всеми вытекающими последствиями. Нам никто ничего бесплатно не продает. И мы тоже не собираемся заниматься благотворительностью. То есть действующие контракты будут остановлены. В ситуации, когда финансовая система западных стран используется как оружие, когда компании из этих государств отказываются исполнять контракты с российскими банками, предприятиями, физическими лицами, когда активы в долларах и евро замораживаются, использовать валюты этих стран не имеет смысла.
I was saying it's a win-win for Russia because basically now they're going to have to buy rubles anyway, just indirectly. So what does that mean? That means Russia's getting paid in rubles. The demand for rubles is going up, which shores up the currency. And then, this basically allows the Europeans to save face, right? You heard what the man said. He said basically that you have to open a bank account in rubles. I can assure you there's a lot of upset EU bureaucrats who think this is the worst April Fool's joke ever, right? Because he said April 1st. I mean, honestly, I don't know how long this is going to last because at the same time, you had a Russian official that said this is also, a temporary solution. right? So the other thing that you have to watch out for is when the contracts actually start. Let me walk you through this article from Reuters, which is just from a few hours ago on this topic, right? So they say that Russia's Gazprom bank is the intermediary for ruble gas payments. I can see you guys in the comments. You think Putin is joking? He's not joking. Like it's not an April Fool's. He's real. I'm just thinking there must be some EU officials who are quite upset about this. So Putin decreed on Thursday that foreign buyers of Russian gas would have to use special accounts at Gazprom Bank to pay for the import of Russian gas. A foreign buyer is now obliged to transfer foreign currency to one special so-called K account. Gazprom Bank would then buy rubles on behalf of the gas buyer to transfer rubles to another special K account. Now, Gazprom Bank would then transfer ruble funds from a K-type account of the foreign gas buyer to Gazprom's, okay? To Gazprom's ruble accounts. Gazprom Bank can open such accounts without a presence of a foreign buyer's representative. That's a lot of K accounts going on, right? But effectively, it achieves the same thing. Now, you have people in Europe who are basically saying, "Oh, this is not going to work in the long term. Yeah, you've regained the ruble's value for a bit, but what's the point? You're cut off from all the global markets." Again, maybe in the short term, man, but I think there's a bit of an arrogance here thinking that, Russia's cut off from the world. No, Russia's cut off from Western things, right? So if you think the world is just the West, yeah, and we're not going to lie, the major financial institutions are in the West, in London and Frankfurt and New York. Yes, fine. But you're not looking to the future. You don't see what's happening, man. You're missing the bigger picture. Ukraine is a catalyst for the multipolar world order that we're moving to. So again, whenever you think that Russia is been locked out of something, I wouldn't be so sure. Nord Stream 2 disappeared, perhaps indefinitely. Russia can turn east. Remember that. This is what I'm talking about. So one of you guys in the comments are saying, how long is it before Russia bans the word Germany bans the word K, the letter K? Just saying that is so ridiculous. They banned a letter. I'm not even kidding. Like, Germany actually banned a letter. Look at this. German states outlaw displays of the letter Z, a symbol of Russia's war in Ukraine. I've heard if you say Z, you can get away with it. This is so dumb. New Zealand Herald, their headline says, Russia-Ukraine war, the Russian ruble bounces back to pre-invasion levels, which is what I was showing you over here. So they say Russia's ruble has recovered nearly all of its value after crippling sanctions in the wake of the invasion. The ruble is trading around 84 per dollar most of Wednesday, after gaining around 20% in the previous two sessions. So again, it's not entirely recovered, but it's doing pretty good for a country that's the most sanctioned country on earth. What they're doing now with the Europeans, I've seen a lot of comments. People are upset. They said that Putin shouldn't have blinked. They say that he should have forced them to pay rubles. So not have Gazprom being an intermediary that converts the rubles for them or buys the rubles for them, but have them do it. Like you go buy it. You bring the rubles to me. Yeah, okay, man. But I think this solution, what some people are suggesting, they say this solution might actually be the best compromise, because this way, Russia's going to continue to receive the revenue that it is owed for the gas. At the same time, by having Gazprom Bank act as an intermediary, you're still going to have this foreign currency coming in and then being converted to rubles or buying rubles on their behalf, which drives up the demand and then basically the value of the ruble. Now, is that going to be enough? I don't know, man. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think that given the situation, I wouldn't say that Putin blinked, I think honestly that if you wanted to be a real, if you wanted to really screw them, he would just turn off the gas. I mean, when I say he, it's Russia, right? I hate people who talk about this like it's one man who has the biggest land mass on earth. Russia's a country, okay? If the Russians really wanted to be mean, they could just turn off the gas valves. Yes, it would hurt them, no doubt. That's like 30 billion euros of revenue a year. But in the long term, they have alternatives, right? So my point here is that some people consider this to be the diplomatic compromise. So you're making sure that you're not burning bridges with the Europeans. Because, man, I'm telling you something. If that gas turns off, this is going to be much bigger than Ukraine. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be a world war, but, you're going to be burning bridges with Europe for sure. Europe is not going to forget that. And vice versa. When people are saying that Putin blinked, I don't know if that's accurate assessment, because, again, the bank, Gazprom Bank, is Russian, but the account will belong to these European countries. So it's basically like they are the ones buying the rubles. Do you understand? So the effect is the same in the end. It's just that he found a diplomatic way of doing it, so to speak. So another thing that you guys have to consider is that there are other things happening at the same time. Europe is not the only, is not the center of the world. I want to show you something very interesting here. Now, this is Sergei Lavrov, who's the foreign minister, right? Let's take a look at what he had to say when he was visiting China just yesterday.
Формируется новая реальность, когда однополярный мир безвозвратно уходит в прошлое, и когда складывается многополярная реальность. Это объективный процесс, его невозможно остановить. Реальность, в которой будет не одна держава править, а в которой необходимо договариваться между всеми ключевыми государствами, которые сегодня имеют решающее влияние на мировую экономику, на мировую политику, и которые при этом, осознавая свое особое положение, обеспечивают базовые принципы Устава ООН, которые начинаются с основополагающего принципа суверенное равенство государств. Никто на этой земле не должен рассматриваться как второстепенный игрок. Все равны и все суверенны. Формируется новая реальность.
Again, do you see how important this is what he's saying? Everything that I've been telling you, again, I'm not trying to say like everything I say is gospel, but this corroborates what we've been seeing, the pattern that we've been seeing, where you have a global realignment. Again, the war in Ukraine is not just confined to Ukraine. It's a catalyst for global realignment. And we saw many clues. We're seeing a pattern, right? We saw, for example, that India was not fazed by these threats of sanctions, continuing its relation with Russia. Pakistan continuing its relationship with Russia. China refusing to sanction Russia. A lot of countries that are not towing the Western line. And again, we're talking about almost half the world's population. I know people like to think the West is the center of the world. It's not, man. It's not. The countries that have sanctioned Russia are, the United States, Canada, Japan, the EU, and Australia. It's the Five Eyes and a few of their buddies. Most of the world does not see eye to eye. And so this is very important because he went to China. This is the first visit since the beginning of the war by the Russians to China. And he gets there, and what does he say? He says what we've been thinking all along, where you're seeing the emergence of a multipolar world, you're seeing the emergence of a global realignment. And that means de-dollarization. And how are we seeing this? We saw this with the Saudis considering, at least contemplating, selling oil to China, not in US dollars, but in Chinese yuan. We saw that in India buying oil at a discount from Russia, not in US dollars, but in rubles. We saw China and Russia settle a gas deal in, I think it was in euros, but still, they are also considering with yuan. And so they have other options that are coming. I mean, it's not fair to limit China and Russia's cooperation to, one gas deal. It's much bigger than that. And so, they've basically pushed Russia into China's arms because now we have Union Pay, which came into the Russian market and took over Visa and MasterCard, right? That's also something very important in terms of economic collaboration between Russia and China, also in the financial domain, right? So not just what currency is being used, but also the financial systems having Union Pay linked to Russia's Mir. And then, of course, Venezuela and Iran wanting to link their systems to Mir. There's so many things happening at once. And he just effectively, confirms that by saying it out loud. We saw it in their actions, but now he said it out loud. And we saw last week, of course, the ambassadors of the BRICS to Russia. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. So there is no Russian ambassador to Russia, but you saw Lavrov, the foreign minister, with the Brazilian, Indian, Chinese, and South African ambassadors, right? So these, again, are the most important economies. Now, Brazil has voted to condemn Russia at the UN, but nevertheless, they have not like cut off ties or been as, standoffish with the Russians as we've seen Europe and others. So, and of course, the other members of the BRICS refused to condemn Russia at the UN. So many things happening at once. And I think this is very significant. Again, literally, he says it word for word. A new reality is taking shape. The unipolar world is irretrievably receding into the past, and a multipolar world is being born. I think this is incredible just from a historical standpoint, from a geopolitical standpoint, regardless of the tragedy that's happening in Ukraine, because again, there are a lot of civilians that are being displaced, killed. It's horrible. War is horrible. But my point is that we should see Ukraine, not just what's happening in Ukraine, but as a global, as a catalyst for global change. I really think it's important to see that. And the fact that, the Putin demanding gas payments in rubles, and he's going to get his way. I know, again, some people say that he blinked. I don't really agree with that. So Gazprom is the state-owned gas company which sells gas to Europe, but there's Gazprom Bank, which handles the payments for it, right? So basically, they're still going to be buying the gas in rubles, the Europeans. They're just going to do it indirectly with ruble accounts that they own. And Putin is very clear, if you don't open an account, we will consider that as a default on the payment, and you're not going to get any gas. We'll turn off the valves, right? So if they don't go to Gazprom and get a ruble account, where they will send the euros and then they are converted from this special K account to another K account into rubles, they will turn off the gas. So in the end, Russia is getting its way. This is, of course, not just helping to shore up Russia's currency during the sanctions. People are so focused on that, like they're saying, yeah, but that's not going to last for long. And the Russians are just lucky, and you'll see they're cut off from everything else. The currency will go downhill. That's not the point, you dingus. That's not the point. Regardless of the sanctions because of Ukraine on Russia, the fact that Russia's making them pay in rubles is incredible. This is the decline of the petrodollar. It's a decline of Western hegemony, euros. When we say Western hegemony, I'm talking specifically monetary hegemony, meaning euros and US dollars. It's very significant. I wouldn't underestimate it. It doesn't mean tomorrow morning going to flip a switch and it's going to be, we're a multipolar world from one day to the next. No, but this is a catalyst. At least that's what I'm seeing from this. I hope you would agree with me because it's very interesting. And I think you're certainly seeing a global realignment, without a doubt.